This is the Lindbergh kidnapping. In Charles Lindbergh's younger years, he had always had an interest in flying in airplanes, which led him to fly one years later. Charles Lindbergh had one major flight that he was well known for, which was from New York City to Paris. A guy named Raymond Ortigue offered anyone $25,000 who would accept the flight. A bunch of people donated money to help build the plane that Charles would fly, and he named it Spirit of St. Louis. He took off May 30th, 1927 at 7:52 a.m. He flew for 33 hours and 30 minutes straight. He landed in Paris at 10:24 p.m. and swarms of people surrounded his plane. After he landed, they held parades, which were pretty massive. They were covering the streets. They also held a banquet for him in Paris. He returned on June 11, 1927. At the time, he was married to Anne Morrow Lindbergh. For the first few months of him being back, he toured the U.S. with his wife. In the fall of 1929, she fell pregnant with Charles Jr. She gave birth to Charles Jr. on June 22, 1930, which just so happened to be her birthday. The next 22 months went perfectly, but when she fell pregnant with her second child, the unimaginable happened. The weekend before, March 21st, the Lindberghs went to their weekend mansion like usual. Charles Jr. fell ill around that time, so they decided to stay at the weekend mansion for a little while longer. The nursemaid and Charles Jr.'s mom had laid him down that night for sleep. At 8 o'clock, when the nursemaid checked on Charles, he was still sound asleep in his bed. 20 minutes later, at 8:20, Charles Lindbergh returned home. While they were eating dinner, Charles Lindbergh heard a sound in the kitchen. It turns out that sound was someone breaking into their house. Once they went and checked on Charles Jr. and realized he was gone, Charles Lindbergh ran outside with his gun in hand and ended up finding the ladder that the guy used to get in. Charles quickly called the police and said, "This is Charles Lindbergh. My son has been kidnapped." When the police came, they found the ransom note in Charles Jr.'s windowsill, and this is the actual note left behind. The police didn't waste any time putting out posters to help find Charles Lindbergh Jr. Not long after the wanted posters were released, the kidnappers sent more instructions. He had said that they would find the baby safe on a 28-foot-long boat. Even though they were told about the boat was never found. On May 12th, a guy found Charles Jr.'s body in the woods. The guy that found baby Charles was William Allen. There was only ever one suspect, which was Bruno Hauptmann. When they arrested Bruno, they found some of the ransom money in his pocket, and when they dug up his garage, they found $12,000 more. Bruno's court date was January 2nd, 1935. There was 7,000 people outside the courthouse asking for the death penalty for Bruno. Bruno did end up getting the death penalty and was killed by electric chair. This was the newspaper article sent out after the trial. Baby Charles was cremated and his ashes were thrown out into the sea, specifically the Atlantic Sea.